This has been a lot of pressure on the All Blacks over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, the disappointment in Wellington. How have you dealt with it?
You either let it dawn on you or you embrace it.
Cam Roigard! And again! And that might just be the winner.
We're just so pleased how much effort and care that was shown that we put during the week. Probably a little more contacts in the air. And the guys came on and did a great job. What about Paddy? And we honoured the legacy.
I think for us, it's about our start. You know, the first 20 there, they put us under a lot of pressure. So
if we could have kept the squeeze on them, those lingering doubts of 2 weeks ago, they would continue and could maybe get the result. But got to sort our discipline out. Harry Potter, this is a yellow card, yeah.
Wasn't the All Blacks that I've come accustomed to once they get off to a great start like that. You know, Australia's credit, they came back and they came back hard. And they were close to winning at the end there, man.
And I thought the All Blacks tried a Roigard. I think that's the one big thing. If you're Scott Robertson, you take out of it and go, that's what I want from my All Blacks team.
Razor and the All Blacks will be happy now, but you've got to start focusing about next week because it's consistency in performance.
Consistency and performance. A 33-24 victory last week at Eden Park sees the Bledisloe Cup locked away for another year by the All Blacks. But the Rugby Championship continues. The final round, and it's in Perth at Optus Stadium on Saturday night. Kia ora, Tefano. Thank you so much for joining us here on Sky Sport. I've got Angus Ta'aval and Mills Muliaina joining me in studio. I'm a very lucky girl. But also coming to us from Perth, we've got Nick White and Jeff Wilson. And they're matching, which is lovely. So we will catch up with them a little bit later on in the show. But boys, look, it's been a really exciting rugby championship. Brilliant to lock away the Bledisloe Cup. The pressure doesn't come off, though, because if the All Blacks want to win this rugby championship, they have no choice but to win and win well in Perth.
100%. And there's pressure to actually perform and consistently perform, not sort of win a game and then sort of lose a game. And it's probably been the big focus. But off the back of last week, relieved that we've kept the Bledisloe. They're rolling now to Perth, and it's a chance for them to sort of stamp their mark on the championship.
And the way they performed at Eden Park, do you think they're on the way to stamping their mark on this rugby championship?
I think there's enough there, but we talk about the All Blacks having a chance at this rugby championship. I think Australia, they had a little nibble. They almost came back against their test, and I think the talk about was Sonny Bill mentioned is an All Blacks team that usually starts well, performs well, and for the belief in that Aussie team to come back and put themselves in a position to win that, they're also able to win this championship. So, I mean, both sides, there's some sparks starting to form, Loz, and I think the All Blacks, obviously, are burning a little bit brighter, but, I mean, it's tough to play for both teams.
Well, look, speaking about the mental shift in the Wallabies that we've seen in this rugby championship, and you and I talked about that a lot pre-game, and it was there. You could see it at the back end. Sonny Bill said in those comments we just heard before, they were close to coming back and winning that game, the Wallabies. So how are they feeling before this test?
I think they'll be fairly confident with the way they're sort of finished. They've done this for the whole sort of championship, haven't they? The ability to come back. And I said it in the pre-game last week, I don't think I've ever seen a sort of more sort of hardened Wallabies outfit than the outfit that we've seen today. It's the start that's killing them right now. You know, that they start well and they know they're going to finish off well. And last week, again, they didn't start that well. The All Blacks got off on a start. They were very passive. I think that's, having guys like Will Skelton now being, earning a spot, that'll fix a lot of that.
That certainly will. Well, let's have a look at the remaining fixtures still in this rugby championship. So where we're sitting at the moment, the All Blacks just under South Africa there. They've got a game against Argentina, and that is at Twickenham. That's a huge game in the grand scheme of this rugby championship. But when you look at the All Blacks and where they sit and where they've come from, what's happened, the consistency or lack thereof in some cases, Mills, what do you think the odds are that we come away with that this weekend?
Well, the big one is the South Africans, right? I mean, they've been consistent. They're the only team that's sort of gone one back-to-back now. They've gone back-to-back sort of wins, one here in Wellington and then obviously at home. But their game's in Twickenham. So if they win that, they win the championship. But for the All Blacks, the key focus will be that consistency, to actually go out there and claim the W and don't be too as chunky as what they have been.
Yeah. Well, what we're going to do now is we're going to head over to Perth, and it looks a beautiful day. We've got Nick and Jeff alongside us. Jeff, we miss you in here, but obviously things are looking all right in Perth.
Look, it's fantastic here right now. And by the way, Laura, my shirt is actually blue. Don't let the pictures deceive you. And when I found out I was going to do a preview show, I didn't know I'd be with the guy who tore us apart in 2019 in this very stadium. Nick, great to have you with us. You've been in camp. You've tried to get one more run, and you haven't quite got there. But how's the feeling in this Wallabies team? The boys at home are thinking maybe they're a chance.
Yeah, look, obviously hurting after the result last week, mainly because there was a lot of opportunities there that were created and the boys just weren't good enough to take them on the day. But, it's rare that you get to play back-to-back. We're lucky in the Rugby Championship. We get to play the opposition back-to-back, and there's opportunities there, and the guys are excited by the opportunities they've created and keen to right some wrongs. And in a stadium that, it's a pretty special stadium. They've turned it on for us, but I would say, whilst it's in Australia, it does feel like it's another home game.
You're trying to convince me that there's more Kiwis going to be at this Test match than Australians. Seriously,
mate, it'll be a blackout. There'll be plenty of Kiwis in there. There's plenty of Kiwis over here in Perth, and they're great people. But I reckon come Saturday they're going to have a black jersey on and be going for us.
Now, are you actually done?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are you sure this time?
I think so. Yep. Well, I'll pack the boots.
You'll pack the boots. Well, he's not going to be any Wallaby teams going forward, Mills. No. Take us through the team for Saturday.
Yeah, thanks, Goldie. I really like this team. There's 5 changes to the Wallabies 15. It's an all Brumbies front row. Alan Alatoa, he gets a start. Billy Pollard and also James Slipper. Massive boost as Will Skelton available after being released from his French club. Nick Frost will partner him. Consistency in the loose selection. Hooper, Wilson and McWright line up again. New halves pairing Jake Gordon and also Tade Edmund in the director's seat. Ikitau and Swali'i, well, they're forming a really dangerous combination in the midfield. And out wide, Filippo Dangunu, he earns his first start of the year. Potter and Jorgensen out the back with him. And on the bench, it's a return to big Robbie Valentini after a calf injury. Western Force captain Jeremy Williams, he gets a seat on the pine as well as Josh Fulham.
So those 5 changes for the Wallabies. I'd love your thoughts, Gus, on getting Will Skelton back. Mills mentioned a big boost for them, and it really is. What does he bring that you think the Wallabies perhaps lacked at Eden Park?
I think what he showed against that British and Irish Lions team, which was built on physicality, which was built on their set piece, and this was a man that got involved. He's a mountain of a man. I think he's 6'7", 6'8", and I think the stat up there that's coming up as 135, might be about 10 or 15 kgs light. So this is a big man, and he's not afraid to get involved in that niggle. He's not afraid to get in people's faces, push them around like the little kid, like the big bully in the playground, and that's what he brings to a team. It's going to be important for the All Blacks not to buy too much into that, to keep him moving, but the boost he brings coming back from France is massive for this pack.
The one area the Wallabies have been really good, it's been a real strength of them, is just denting that line in the close quarters, around the rucks, and he's just going to add to that threat, And when I mentioned before about their start, he'll shore up some of that defensive effort as well. The All Blacks got a lot of momentum in the start of that sort of game in the inside channels where they were passive. He won't bring that. He'll bring line speed, but he'll also bring physicality because he's such a big body player.
So let's talk about Tane Edmed and what he brings to the side. Could he help with those better starts for the Wallabies that they need if they're going to get some points here?
He's a confidence player, Edmed. He loves taking the ball to the line, and if the Wallabies can produce what they produced in the later sort of stages of the match, it'll free him up to do stuff like this. Really challenges the line guys, outside him, especially if you got, Swali'i and also Ikitau outside him that are real big threats. If you leave him sort of open, he'll take that space. So he is. He's a confidence player, but a lot of it will come from how well his forwards get that momentum up front, Angus.
I think it's a big opportunity for him as well, because you look at Tom Liner, James O'Connor and Edmed, they've sort of split including this one, the last 5 tests with no one playing back-to-back. And you talk about confidence player, he needs to take control of the game. We hardly saw Swali'i last week. He needs to use those men outside of him. And like you said, I think with Skelton being there, getting the front foot, slowing down the All Blacks ball, will give him that time, will give him that space and give him that confidence to have a crack. He has to.
It's going to be a very, very interesting night out at Optus Stadium. Let's head over to Perth again. We've only got one Aussie on the show. It's probably only right that we hear what he has to say about this team. Jeff, Nick, what do you make of the Wallabies?
I'll ask Nick quickly because ultimately every team needs a player that the other players look up to. You played 77 tests. James Slipper's going into 151. It's his last in the gold jersey. In response to that, I'd say Kevin Mialamu for a long, long time was the player everyone else looked up to in the All Blacks. Has that been James Slipper for the last, 15 years?
Yeah, he has. He's, Yeah, like I think he is him. I think that's what the boys say these days. He's a lot of big words get thrown around, but this guy absolutely lives them. He's an absolute warrior. I think what he brings is a lot of the stuff around the set piece that I don't know a whole lot around, but. Mate, the physicality around the game, like there's no better chop tackler in the game. A lot of our quick ball and what comes off that is usually slips, sacrificing his body to get us quick ball. He blasts breakdowns better than anyone I know. Like,
are you telling me you had nothing to say when the scrum goes down?
No.
When the scrum went down and you had nothing to say?
Oh, I've spoken to Mike and throw the arms up and throw a phrase out, but yeah, I don't really know what I'm looking at.
Do you know, though, what this Wallaby team's about now? Given the fact that where they've come to this year and how they've built through the Rugby Championship, what they did against the Lions, you're leaving the environment. Where do you think this environment is this week? You've been in camp. How are they preparing for this test?
Yeah, look, as I said, we saw a lot of opportunities that they want to go at. Spoken about the first 20. Love to come out with that desperation we had once we were a try or two down and start the game that way. We've had a couple of games this year where we've started really well, but just haven't been consistent in it, and would love to see that. And then again, our physicality and fundamentals. So we've got a couple of big boys coming back in, which really help. And then the fundamentals of the game, if we get that right from the start, we give ourselves a chance.
You've made massive shifts, though, haven't you, this year, as a team, in terms of your performance. Is there a belief now you're starting to kick forward to what's happening here in 27?
Yeah, absolutely. And that belief comes from doing it once or twice. And we've been able to come from behind. But, again, we'd like to start well. But, yeah, there's some huge belief in what Joe's doing. And, honestly, he doesn't get enough credit. What he's done with the side over the last 18 months is starting to come to fruition. But they also know there's a lot of hard work ahead of them. But they're heading in the right direction, and this weekend is a great place to start.
The Wallabies want to finish well. The All Blacks, well, they finished well last weekend. They want to start well, the Wallabies, I'm saying. Mills, take us through the All Black team with that responsibility here in Perth.
Yeah, thanks, Goldie. Yeah, the All Blacks have made some changes as well. Forced through injury too. Up front, Timothy Williams, he's in for the injured. Ethan de Groot, Fletcher Newell, he's elevated to tight head. And hooker, Cody Taylor. Captain Scott Barrett returns from a shoulder injury. Tupo Vai will partner him in the engine room. Peter Lakai, he's handed the 8 jersey in his first start for the All Blacks. Savia and Parker remain at 6 and 7. Cam Roigard, well, he was so good last week. He'll get a new 5'8", and Damien McKenzie. And Quinn Tupaia earns the 13 jersey after a couple of impressive games off the bench. And it's a return for Lester Whainganuku on the left wing. Leroy Carter, he's on the right, and Will Jordan at fullback. And to the bench, plenty of impact in the likes of Toki Aho and also Tui Polotu. And Bauer, Ioane and Love all get a seat on the bench for Bledisloe number 2.
Right, and Jeff Wilson caught up with Jason Ryan earlier.
Well, Jace, a number of changes, a number injury enforced, but a couple in particular I want to talk about. Peter Lakai, Quinn Tupaia. What's Peter done to, I suppose, impress you so he gets a start at 8?
Yeah, he's got a bit of a point of difference in his ball carry, and just gives us another opportunity to have a look at him. We thought he came off the bench and added some good power, so pretty impressed with that. So good chance for us to have another look at him. And Quinn Tupaia, I think he's been exceptional off the bench. He's been one of our most consistent and added a real good dimension to our game when he's come on, so he gets a chance at centre here.
No Caleb Clark this week. You're welcome back, Lester Whainganuku. What's he done to get this opportunity to prove he's ready for Test match rugby? Yeah,
he's trained incredibly well. He's come in and done his homework, and he's coming off the back of a reasonable season overseas, I guess, but it's been pretty seamless, the work he's done around the ball and off the ball, and we know that he's a threat with the ball. So really looking forward to that.
When you sat down as a selection team looking towards this game and what you had available other than injury, what point of difference do you want this week from last week?
Oh, we've got a chance to back up from that performance, something that, hasn't been a strong point for us. So I think that consistency is important. We really want to get into the Test match really early, and some guys have got a chance that are probably a little bit fresher, that haven't had as much rugby, so I'm looking forward to that, really.
In regards to the Wallabies, they've got some bodies coming back into their environment, change at 10, it looks as though, for them. What are you expecting them to do? How much better do you think they'll be this week in Perth?
Yeah, they'll be better. We need to be better as well. I think that, they've got a few boys leaving. James Slipper's last game, what a massive legacy he will leave for the Wallabies, and a great man too, so special for us to acknowledge that. We did last week in the shed for his 150th, so they'll be emotionally charged on that regard, I think, and they got obviously Skelts and Bobby V back, so they add some power and no doubt a little bit of niggle, so that's good, and that's where the contest will be different.
Thanks, Jason. Good luck.
No worries. Cheers.
Boy, consistency is a word that I think we've heard after every single one of the All Blacks games, and we're still searching for it as we reach the last round of the Rugby Championship. And it has been a bit of a mix-up, some changes to the All Blacks side. With Whainganuku coming in on that left wing, what's he going to bring and how will he bring consistency to the All Blacks at this point of the comp?
Well, it's just interesting hearing what he sort of mentioned about sort of him familiarising himself with the environment, sort of how that's kind of playing. He's a threat, you know. So if the All Blacks get, you know, momentum like they did last week, he'll finish as did Caleb Clark. But the one area that he's going to be really effective is around the fringes, you know, that he can really challenge some of those sort of, you know, those I suppose struggling defenders or tiring defenders around that sort of edges and pick and go. We all know what he can do, but I'm looking forward to sort of seeing, because he looks a lot bigger since he's been in France. He's piled on quite a bit of muscle, sort of, you know, how he's going to go in a test match.
Yeah, flying back from, I think it was Blenheim, we saw him in the airport, and he was talking about having to put on the weight in France because of the physical need and the physical battle over there. So I'm excited to see what he's brought. He came back into NBC and honestly looked like he was playing schoolboy rugby. Yeah. He's explosive, he's powerful, and against a team that's backing themselves with some of their big boys, I think we need him in there.
Well, let's talk about Peter Lakai, first start for the All Blacks. What can we expect to see from him and what does he bring that the All Blacks need? Yeah,
I sort of wanted to say Artie Light, but then that's a no disrespect just because of what a beast Artie is, but he comes in that same sort of mould. He's not the biggest of men, but he's got a lion's heart. He's great with his ball carries, as you can see. His work after contact is immense, and his fight, his will to keep moving. He's great over the ball. He brings that side to the game, and I think over the last couple of years he's really showed at Super Rugby level how he can impact the game, and now he gets a chance for his first start.
And what also he is starting to bring now, and you're seeing it in NPC, a little bit of confidence in his game. So he's starting to loosen his arms out. He's getting those sort of offloads sort of going. I think the game that he played for Wellington, you know, he went around two guys, you know, with his offloading game. So it's just that consistency. It's his first start. You know, he's fairly young. He's been in the environment, but for him to go out there, he adds that extra threat as well because he can get over the ball, like you mentioned about, you know, similar to sort of what Artie does. But what he can also do is when he's ball carrying, he's very effective in his ball carrying ability, and also, you know, sniping out a little bit of momentum for the All Blacks.
So you've got these two boys coming in, and there's a few other changes to the All Blacks. What would the messaging be from the coaches, do you think, at this point? Because we're looking for consistency. It's the last game of the Rugby Championship. Like, what can you do if this is your first crack at it? Well,
it's opportunity, isn't it? I mean, you look at guys like a Quintupaia. I mean, he's probably earned that. He's earned a start. He's been really effective coming off. He's been impressive coming off the bench. He's earned that start. So it's an opportunity for them leading into sort of the end of year tour, you know, to establish their mark and hopefully, you know, pick up a spot. For guys like Lester Whainganuku, it's being back in their environment, getting back to his very best in the Test match arena. But again, we can't shy away from the fact they've got to be consistent. Consistency is winning again.
That's it.
Well, I think you talk about the consistency. What that looks like for these players is you don't need to go out and make a massive line break, throw 5 offloads. I mean, if you can do that, that's awesome. But it's nailing your role. What is your role? I don't need to worry about your role, Loz, tonight. You know.
But
come.
Oh, so you worry about mine?
Always
a little bit, mate. A little bit. But come game time, you need to nail your role, do what you're supposed to do at a high level, because that's what's expected in the black jersey.
Yeah, well, Mills congratulated me on growing a great moustache last week at the Eden Park game, so that's all right. We'll go back to that later. Right, we're going to cross over. Speaking of moustaches, Nick White. Yeah. We're going to cross over now to Perth with Jeff and Nick. And Jeff, we talk about players making impacts. Quintupaia, the big one for you this Rugby Championship?
Yeah, absolutely. A big mover. It's been a big day for him getting that start at centre. It's been a big day for me as well. It's the first time in a broadcast I've been the taller of the two, Jason Ryan and now Nick White, which I'm stoked about. But let's talk about power, because you mentioned it before we came on air. When you look about the players, Lakai, but Tupaia has been the big mover for the All Blacks, and the opportunity at centre, there could be bigger things if he nails it this weekend.
Yeah, they're 3 changes, like 3 big ball carriers. Like, I'm pretty lucky that I'm retired now. I'm looking at retirement thinking I'm glad I did. But look, yeah, some guys that have played some quality rugby over the last bit of time and shown their power, and they've earned the chance. Like Quinn at 13 hasn't played a whole lot of footy, but we've seen when he comes off the bench, he covers all positions, and I'm sure he'd be comfortable in there. And he offers a different threat to the guys like Billy and Rico in that he's pretty punchy and powerful.
Looking for players who can change the game. Well, last weekend Cam Roigard was one of those. The fact you think about how he came back into the All Black environment on the back of 40 minutes for Counties Manukau in the NPC. Is he a game changer for the All Blacks in your eyes?
He is, yeah. Like, his fundamentals, his basics around the game are phenomenal. His pass, his kick, his lines in order to get to the ball, and his support lines. But his instincts take over when opportunity comes, and you've seen that in the last few games. So when he's out there, if someone's sloppy around that breakdown, Cam is very quick and he's very strong to be able to create space around, create space for himself, but also create space for others. And he's once you've got to worry about someone, it creates something for someone else.
You saw the All Blacks up close last weekend. What is it you see in this All Black team now?
Yeah, I saw a side that's starting to understand how they all want to play the game together, right? So they've been through a little bit of a journey, and you heard it there of coming in and finding out the way within the environment how they want to play, and they're starting to fire some shots, and they're confident in firing shots anywhere on the field. From their own try line, they'll chance their arm all the way up. So look, it's scary defensively, and you've got to be on your toes to look after this side, and it also does create some opportunities for us, because if they get it wrong, it creates opportunities for us.
Not the first time we've been Perth, you, and one of the big wins for Australia. There's been a big win for the All Blacks. Let's look back at those 2 Test matches.
It is an historic game between the Wallabies and the All Blacks. First time a Bledisloe Cup game has come to Perth.
Bledisloe 1 2019 is underway. Hearts nobody in front of it! All the way! What a start, Australia! Wow! They're on their feet at Optus Stadium. Nick White, he dies! If anyone deserves a try, it is Nick White. Barrett! And now going straight through is Lamapi! You can never shut the shop against the All Blacks. And now Hodge, and he has got a double. We are heading to a decider. Job done for the men in gold. 47-26.
They're back to try and erase some of those memories.
Jordy Barrett, what a try that is. Absolutely brilliant. Oh, man.
Karevi again. The Wallabies score. All Blacks playing with 14 men. They've done it again. Can you believe this? Barely gets there. But what a kick if this sits up. And it does sit up. Oh, George Bridgen. And it's been a whitewash of the Wallabies by the All Blacks in 2021.
I love the flashbacks. Completely forgot about the Geordie Barrett red card, but you were a part of those 2 games.
Yeah.
What were they like? I don't know why I'm pointing so harshly at you. Don't take anything by that. But what was it like? What's Perth like to play at?
Well, the games themselves, 2 very different experiences. 2 red cards, 2 Barretts. One was a walloping win for us, and one was a walloping win for the Wallabies. But Perth, it's an underrated city. I mean, the stadium is beautiful, Optus Arena. It's built, obviously, for AFL and cricket, but, I mean, the fans put it on. You're talking about, Nick White was talking about the All Black supporters. Yeah, I mean, there was a good contingent, but the way it lights up, the electric vibe, the surround sound system, I mean, it was all on, and Perth put it on for us as well. I mean, one was a bit of a later night, and the second one was a beautiful day, a beautiful sunny day in Perth.
It's hot though, right? Because Perth is, the only time I've ever been there, it was so hot. And Jeff was saying before it's like 28 degrees or something.
Yeah, it was warm. I mean, that's why you see in some of these pictures as a forward, you like to see these guys make the long breaks. So as the tight 5, you can hang back and you get a drink of water at halfway. Mills, I know you had a few of those. Let the big boys have a break.
Yeah, you're right, and that's going to be a factor. And when you look at sort of the 2 teams and the way and the style that they want to sort of play, it's combative, but also they like to get the ball out to the wider channels. So when you're thinking about the heat and everything else around it, the atmosphere and what it sort of brings, it's going to bring a lot to the test, and also the emotion, because there is a lot of emotion going into these games. If you think about sort of last week and how the Wallabies lost that game, they'll be coming up pumped.
They certainly will. We're going to head over to Perth for the final time tonight because, well, they need to get out of the sun, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm worried about Jeff. Jeff, Nat, what are your final thoughts? Who do you think is going to take this one out?
Oh, I'm so grateful you're thinking of me, Laura, in that regard. I'll be fine. I'll survive, Nick. Look, this is it. The rivalry continues. The fact we know the Bledisloe Cup is not on the line, but there's a sense that it's going to be a bit more in this one. The fact that if the Wallabies can get a win, do you believe they can get a win first and foremost, and how do they get a win?
Absolutely. It's going to be a little bit wet on Saturday, which helps. It's been lovely all week, but this won't be out Saturday night, unfortunately. It looks like a few mils of rain are coming in. That'll change the game. It'll be pretty physical. Big guys like Will have come into the game. I think the boys are pretty keen to get one for Slips on his last game. And yeah, I see it being a close one because it's wet, and I see James O'Connor coming on and closing out a game like he's shown us he can do.
We've done our forecasting, though. That's why we've picked our size. That's why we've picked all the biggest players we could possibly put out there to counter everything that the Wallabies have got. Look, enjoy your last captain's run. Take a couple of drop goals and shots at goal. Look, we've appreciated you in the gold jersey. Thanks for joining us on the show, and mate, we look forward to joining you again soon. Thanks very much.
I appreciate it, guys, and I really will. I'll enjoy this last one.
Game on here in Perth, team.
Thank you, boys, very much for that. And I'd love your thoughts. Do we think the Wallabies could get up here? I mean, it is a relief that we've got the Bledisloe Cup locked away. How much would it mean to get the Rugby Championship as well?
They've got a team to be able to win. The thing for us is, it's a long way. If we lose this game, there's a long break before we get to Ireland. So they've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Almost, grab that sort of that feeling that they felt leading into the Bledisloe one, because there was a lot of pressure on them. They don't want to sort of revert back to that leading into the Irish game. But this Wallabies outfit, I've said it before, I don't think I've ever seen a sort of a quality side from a mental perspective for a very long time that's come out of the Wallaby camp.
It's going to make it a very exciting test, that is for sure. So much on the line, so much happening. But for the All Blacks, if they could get the win here, hopefully that means the Rugby Championship as well. Does that make this a successful campaign?
Well, I think a win's a successful campaign. A couple of losses, probably not what they wanted, but I think if they back themselves this weekend, keep shifting the ball, come away with a good win, I think they'll take that as successful.
All right, we have got you covered this weekend, everything you need in this Rugby Championship, the final round on Sky Sport, your home of rugby. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We cannot wait for Bledisloe 2 in Perth on Saturday.